Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Fitness Education Series produced by the Australian Fitness Academy. It's like progressive overload for your brain. I'm your host, Tom Rock, and in today's episode we're going to talk about using fitness tests to predict performance. And we're going to talk about it in a couple of aspects, but this podcast idea, I guess, came from the back of just a research article I found online, which is called A 3-Minute Work Capacity Test Predicts Simulated Firefighting Performance. So the study basically looked at a range of different fitness tests, whether it was strength tests, cardiovascular endurance tests, VO2 max tests, and just a different range of tests that measured work capacity. And then they related the results to a simulated firefighting performance, which was a more of probably a common test they do, or you might do as a firefighter, which involves sort of work-based tasks, whether it's carrying equipment up some stairs. One of them was sort of a body drag. One of them was pulling a rope or like a fire hose, and another one was sort of a longer distance sort of equipment carry. And they looked at these fitness tests and looked at how they relate to simulated firefighting performance. And what they showed is one of the fitness tests or work capacity tests they did was sort of like they had a pyramid sort of setup, which was like a number of you basically walk up and down a series of steps in sort of a pyramid formation for 3 minutes, and they would measure heart rate, vertical power. They took a bunch of measurements as doing that, and they found that was correlated to basically their simulated firefighting performance. And I think this sort of stuff is used all the time in sport, definitely elite sport, where they'll perform a range of fitness tests, usually with speed, strength, power, aerobic fitness. It'll depend on the sport. You'll pick fitness tests that relate to the important components of the sport. And those fitness tests, not only do they generally allow you to work out if you'll be good at the sport or be able to perform well at the sport, but they'll also help you work out areas where you may need to improve. So if I look at the sport of tennis, for example, change of direction, the ability to change direction quickly might be a factor in tennis performance, because you're sort of running side to side, backwards and forwards, and changing direction a lot. So if you use some fitness tests and measure someone's agility or change direction, you could assume that if they get quicker at changing direction, they'll get better at their tennis performance will improve. So it's used a lot in sport, is using fitness tests to predict performance, or generally working out what areas of fitness you might be able to improve on that could improve your performance. And this study looks at applying it to more of a workforce environment, which I think is a really cool aspect, especially given the physical nature of a job. And I think this sort of idea could be taken into a range of different physical workplaces. If your physical ability is going to affect how well you are able to perform your job, and that's not the case in a range of jobs, but for some jobs, physical ability and fitness will play a role in how well you can perform your job role. So I think understanding what tests can measure your performance is really important, not only for measuring performance and jobs like the firefighters or even the police, and I think the ambulance as well, will have fitness tests as part of the induction process, or as part of the job application process. You'll have to pass a series of fitness tests to show that you're capable of doing the job. And I think information like this, and I'll put a link in the description so you can have a look at the article if you want yourself. But I think information like this helps design a structure or a schedule that you can sort of implement for individuals working in these jobs to regularly be tested, whether it's every 6 months, 12 months, to see where they align. And you can sort of start to set fitness levels or numbers that they need to be hitting in order to maintain their performance at their current job. Whether if you get a higher number, you're going to perform better. That's really good. We obviously want higher numbers, but you could have a range of fitness tests for a lot of jobs, and just keep track like we do with athletes with elite sport. We track their performance over time, so we can see what their strength level is at the start of the season versus halfway through. And if they're halfway through the season and their strength level's dropped off, we might need to put a specific strength block in for that specific athlete to help improve their strength to potentially reduce their risk of injury for that second half of the season. You could use the same sort of thing with these physical labour jobs, and some of them do implement this regularly. Others just do it at the start as a process and then don't retest. But I think if you don't retest, you don't know you've got all these employees who potentially could be fitter and better able to complete their job if they understood what aspects of fitness they could improve. So if you run a fitness testing battery with your group of firefighters, for example, in this situation, we could look at their strength and their cardiovascular endurance and this 3-minute work capacity test. And after they perform these tests, I'll be able to tell you which is potentially going to perform best in a simulated environment. But also, if we track it over time, we can see if someone's VO2 max starts to drop or their strength starts to drop than it used to be 2 years ago. We can say we can put in intervention or a program to bring that back up, so they are able to perform at their peak when it comes time to need it within their role. So I think it's a really cool article that brings out the discussion of the usefulness of fitness testing and how it can be used to make sure people are maintaining a standard if it's required for their physical labour job or for their job. Um, but obviously, elite athletes use it to perform well at the sport and maintain their performance. But I don't think it's also something that general population can utilize too and look to keep a measure. You don't have to run fitness tests all the time, but understanding maybe what your strength level is, what's your 3RM, what's your 2K time trial like, where's that sit. You might be a flexibility or mobility fitness test that you can do to measure range of motion. And then as long as you have an idea of where that's sitting, you can look to keep track of it. So in 2 years' time, you can work out, oh, my strength has dropped. So you can go back and get a new program or go back to the personal trainer or your coach and say, I'd like to increase my strength again. It used to be this. I'm currently at this. I want to work back up to this. So it gives you set goals and it can help you work out where you're at if things start going up or things starting going down. So it allows you to sort of measure things over time, and I think that's really important to get an idea of if you are training or exercising, what effect is it having, and if it is working. If you do have a goal, whether it's weight loss or to improve your cardiovascular endurance, if you're not sort of measuring your improvements, it's hard to tell if your training is working. And if it's not working, obviously we want to mix it up and potentially work out why isn't it working. Is it the intensity? Is it the frequency? What's happening with my training that's causing me not to adapt? Why am I not getting the adaptations that I'm after? But unless we have those measures of performance and we can sort of run some sort of test to measure it and then run it again in 6 months, in 12 months and work out what's happened and see if we have improved or if we've sort of gone backwards, we don't know. And I think this is one application of where it could be important. So I can measure everyone every 12 months or every 2 years. I get these firefighters in. I'm going to test them all and I can keep a track record of where they're at. So in 5 or 15 years into their career, we can work out how their training program needs to change based on these fitness tests. If someone's strength is maintaining but their aerobic capacity is going down, well, we can focus their program mainly on the aerobic capacity. If someone else has got into running on outside of work and their aerobic capacity is really good, but their strength is starting to drop off, we can sort of individualize it and give them some more focused strength or resistance training work. So it's really cool, I think, in that respect, and I think that's something you can do not just in this scenario as it is with sort of firefighters and predicting their work capacity, but in your own training with your own goals, you can sort of use fitness tests to don't have to predict performance, but it can predict whether your training is working as well. So you can sort of see if you're getting better or getting worse and manipulate um, your training around what your goal is, but also then measure those improvements or measure it and see um, if your training program is working. Anyway, just a quick one, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed my thoughts on that one. If you do have any questions on this or have any other questions or topics you'd like me to discuss, send an email to tom@afa.com.au, and I'm happy to chat about anything you guys would like me to talk about. Other than that, have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you all soon.